Well, welcome everyone to my Kickstarter project, the Cool Shed Beehive. I'm Jay Taylor, also known as the Bee Lady. I am a small scale beekeeper based in Tuskegee, Alabama, and I started keeping bees a few years ago just for fun. Then, what began as a small project quickly became a passion. And for me, it became a lesson in how challenging traditional beekeeping can be in the deep southern heat. So, for me, between extreme temperatures and pests like small hive beetles and ants, and not to mention the physical strain of lifting heavy hive boxes. I don't care how old you are. A 100-pound box of honey is still a 100-pound box. But I realize now there has to be a better way. And I've been diagnosed with back problems, which makes lifting even a single box a real challenge for me. So I might have to give up beekeeping. But nope, I'm not going to do that. So I started thinking, and this is what has led me to develop the Cool Shed Beehive, a system designed to make beekeeping more comfortable for people and more sustainable for the bees. My goal for this project is to build a working prototype and test it thoroughly through one full honey season and then share what I learned with others. Eventually, I'd love to offer DIY kits, plans, and possibly local manufacturing to support other small farmers and beekeepers starting right here in my hometown of Tuskegee, Alabama. So, thank you so much for taking the time to learn about my project. If you've watched it this far, your support is truly going to mean the world to me, even if you don't contribute financially. But hey, share this link, this Kickstarter project with others. So let me show you more of what I have in mind. So here's some of the problems: the heat, the cold, pests, and weeds. Here in Zone 8B in Alabama, we get brutal 90 to 100-degree days. I think even having bees in traditional boxes, it's so hot, even for the bees. Now, imagine, yes, bees survive in the wild, but usually they're inside of a tree trunk. And that temperature can be considerably cooler on the inside of that tree trunk than the outside. The convenience and the type of beehives, the Langstroth hives that you can typically purchase, they're not that thick, so you're not going to get a whole lot of temperature control. The bees just have to like deal with it, and that's not helpful, and that may also contribute to some of the problems. Also, by having the hives low-ish to the ground, and you get weeds sometimes, even though you can see in this picture I use landscape fabric, but sometimes the dirt builds up, so weeds will start to grow. There's always something to do in a bee yard, so if I don't have time to get to it, those weeds become a highway for ants to get up into the hives, and it's always something in beekeeping. But also, by that low to the ground, you end up with what we now have here in America. I'm learning small hive beetles, and those can be a problem as well. And you kind of want to have the hives low, because if you start adding more boxes, then if the hive were more off the ground, you'd have to have probably a step ladder, and that's not safe. So I had to figure out some solutions. So here we go. Now, I think we can work smarter with this, folks. I know this is not traditional, and a whole lot of people are going to beat up on this project because, oh, it's not traditional. It is what it is, but I have to find solutions so I can keep working with the little honeybees that I love and making delicious honey. So my Cool Shed Beehive uses AZ-style hives, and the hives themselves would be installed in a shaded, ventilated shed. It would help keep the bees cooler, in summer in the heat, and in the winter it would also help with keeping them a few degrees warmer. And it would let me manage the hives without heavy lifting and manage the hives without being outside directly in 100-degree heat sun bearing down on you when you're trying to do inspections for your hives or harvesting honey. And I've noticed I tend to do, it's harder to do inspections when it's so hot, so you really can't do as many. So, gotta come up with a solution. Now, if you fund my project, with your contribution funds will help me to build a full working prototype, including the shed, 10 A to Z hive bodies, the bees, and solar powered ventilation, and hiring a local carpenter to help with the modifications. Yes, it's gonna run around 25 grand, but that is to make sure we get it done and get it done the right way the first time out. Now, why is this important? I think this system could be better and safer for the bees, for the beekeeper, because there have been stories about beekeepers, overheating. Heat stroke is no joke. People are suffering colony losses, and we as beekeepers have to really think about, we're trying to mimic what happens in nature because we know bees survive naturally in nature, but there are some points I think we're missing out on. So yes, could you build a thicker, more insulated beehive body? Sure. But that doesn't take away from the beekeeper, the human, has got to go and open up hives and do inspections and check on the bees and harvest honey, still outdoors exposed in the elements. So here's where we're going with this. So if you back my project, you will get updates. I'm working on some really cool shed t-shirts. And if you back at a certain level, I will even ship you in the continental USA a jar of honey. And we're also going to do some other things, but all the backer awards are explained on the website. Oh, let's talk about risk. With any new idea, this project has risk. There can be delays with materials because even by using delays with materials, delays with weather, because even by using the shed to protect the bees against the elements, weather factors can affect what's flowering at any given time and what the honeybees forage on. So if we get a late cold snap in the spring of 2026, then there won't be anything for the bees to forage on, and we'll have to wait a whole nother year to really work on the outcome. But presumably that won't happen, but it could, and it would be a delay. So weather and any other adjustments that come along. So that's why I'm starting with just one prototype building with 10 hives and test it over a full honey season. And I will share all the information through our website, good or bad, what I learned so other people can learn from me. Now, why isn't this style of beekeeping more common in the US if it's so great? Quite simply, traditionally, it's not been done, and beekeeping is a very traditional occupation. Expense, because you gotta add a building, but there's a way, and I talk about it on the Kickstarter project, how even purchasing a building and putting the hives in it, you kind of offset the expense because you would be harvesting more honey. And also scaling this up commercially could be a challenge. But what I'm showing you here, this would be a 40-foot shipping container, and this part of the project would be later down the road, where you could put quite a few hives in one shipping container, and shipping containers aren't that expensive. Now, this style of beekeeping, putting bees in hives that have pull out, that pull out instead of lifting up. It has worked really well for hundreds of years in Europe, so we know that it works. But here in the US, it's we don't really do it that way because traditionally we've done it a different way with Langstroth hives and some horizontal hives and some top bar hives. So you're not going to find a lot of places here in the US that sell the equipment already pre-built. But I think with our prototype showing that it can work and then manufacturing the different products and supplies, and behind that, because I used to be an educator, well, I'm still an educator, then including an education support, ready-made supplies, I think it could be commonly adoptable by beekeepers here in this country. Oops, so my dog is in the room. So what comes next? Once it's fully funded, I will begin building the cool shed beehive prototype with 10 A to Z hives in a ventilated 8x10 shed. Monitor its performance throughout the whole honey season. I know I would be able to do more inspections if I didn't have to stand out in 100-degree heat. But if we don't reach the full goal of money, the 25,000 or whatever number I put there that I'm asking for, I've already started to purchase one A to Z hive, and I'm going to begin a smaller trial run. So I believe in this system, and I'm going to keep testing, documenting, and sharing results, even if it doesn't get funded. And I will keep applying and keep knocking on doors until I get the funding to do this, because I love beekeeping, but I have to eliminate some of the hard parts of it, or I just can't continue to do beekeeping, and that would be sad, especially for me. Now, what you can do, you can help me build this, and your support is going to help me build something that can change small scale beekeeping, not just for me, but for everybody. So, or anyone else, everybody meaning anybody else who wants to do beekeeping or anybody else who loves honey. So, help me to make it easier, safer, and more sustainable. We can do this together, I promise you. So, thank you for spending a few minutes of your time with me. If you can't support financially, then please just share this link with others. And I can't wait to show you what gets built as we move along. So thank you. Have a lovely day.